Hello everyone. Good evening to all of you. Good evening, Mansi. So we are live here for the sixth class of our workshop. Let's wait for the students to join. Let's wait for 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. So let's get a quick recap of the yesterday's session. In the yesterday's session, we first learned about the arrays, what is an array. Then we learned about the type of array. Then we learned what is file handling and what are the classes that is used to read the file, write the file, and represent the file and directory. Okay. So then we learned about JDBC, what is JDBC API, what is JDBC driver, and what is the JDBC architecture. Then we learned about the 7 steps or 6 steps to get the connection with the database and execute the query. Then we learned about the types of execution, and we have also done the practical session of the JDBC with the example of creating and inserting and retrieving. Okay. So today we will come to servlets and we will start the introduction to Java Web Technology. Okay. So let me create another project. Let's close the previous one. Okay, so minimize this and create a new project with me. Click on File, then click on New Project. Then we can select here Java Web, then select the web application here. Click on Next. So the project name, let us give like Octanet Advanced Java. Then click on Next. So select a server you like. I have Apache Tomcat and Glassfish server. Select any server you like. I will select Apache. Then select the latest version, that is Java EE7 Web. And this is the context path. It is the same name as the project name. Okay. So click on Next. Here we don't need any kind of framework. So let's not take anything and just click on Finish. So as you can see here, we get the project structure of our Octanet Advanced Java. Here, let me minimize everything and teach you everything. So here in the web pages, we will have the HTML pages and JSP pages to view user a web page. Okay. So here it is the source package. Inside the source package, we will have our Java codes and the Java servlets. Inside the library folder, we will have our JDK file, that is our Java compiler, and we will have our Apache Tomcat, that is the server. And again, we need to insert the jar file, that is for the database connectivity. I will insert both the files, that is SQL, MySQL connector. Then again, I will insert, where is it? This is OJDBC jar for Oracle database. Okay. And this is the configuration files. We don't need to change this, so let it be minimized. So now let's run the file and check if it is working or not. Just click on index.html page, right click and click on run file. Let's see what happens. Okay, so you can see that we are getting a web page with the URL localhost colon 8084. It is the port number. By default, the port number is 8080, but since I am using Oracle, the 8080 port now is being used by the Oracle database. That is why I have changed it to 8084. And now this is the context path, that is the project name. This is Octanet Advanced Java. I have given the project name, so it is showing as the context path. And here index.html is my file name. Okay. So here it is showing that to do write content because we have not written anything, because here we have a div that displays to do write content. Okay. So finally, we have created the basic structure of advanced Java. Now let's move to servlets. Okay. So let me create a README file. Let's create a package inside the source packages. Let's create a, where is it? Java package. Let's name it day6. It is day6. Then inside day6, let's create a README file. Very simple file. Let me search it, empty file. Then I can name it readme.md. Okay. So let's learn about Java web technology. Okay. So what is web application? Web application basically means the client, the server, and the database. Okay. So web application is the combination of client, server, and database. Okay. So what is client? Client, it is a browser that sends the request to the server. Okay. Browser that sends the request. Okay. Then what is server? Server is a web server that receives the request from the client, like Apache Tomcat server or Glassfish server or any other server. Okay. So what is server? A web server that receives and processes the request. Okay. Then what are databases? We know all about databases that are MySQL. Then we have Oracle, and some might have PostgreSQL and etc. Okay. So these are the main things about web application. Okay. Now here comes what is the role of servlets. Okay. So what is a servlet? A servlet is a Java class that handles the HTTP request and response in the web application. So let me write it. What are servlets? Servlets, it is a Java class that handles HTTP request and responses in a web application. Okay. So servlet is nothing a rocket science. Servlet is only a Java class that will handle the HTTP request and response in a web application. Okay. So you can say one more thing, that it acts like the controller between the browser, that is the client, and the database. Okay. So suppose you are the client and you need some data from the database, then you are requesting some data to the server, and the server is acting as a controller to retrieve the data for you and send it to you. Okay. So how does it work, the request response flow? At first, the browser or the client sends the request. Okay. Sends uh, sends request. This should be written on the top. So let's write like this: sends request to web server like Tomcat. Okay. Then the web server interacts with the model or database. Then what does it do? It will display the output on the browser. Okay, so this is the architecture. At first, what will happen? First, the browser or the client will send a request to a web server. Then the web server will interact with the database or the model. Then it will retrieve the output and display it on the web browser. Okay, am I clear? Then let's come the servlet lifecycle. Okay, so let me write it here. Servlet lifecycle. Okay, so servlet lifecycle has 5 stages or mainly 4 stages. The fifth is optional. It has mainly 4 stages. The first one, it is called init. So what is init method? Init method is called once when the servlet is first loaded. Okay, init method is called once when the servlet is first loaded. It is not called many times. It is called only once when the servlet is loaded. Okay, then comes the service method. Then comes the service method. or nowadays it has changed to process request method. Process request method. Okay. So what is it used for? It is used for call for every client request. Okay. So the service method or the process request method is called for every client request. Number of times the client requested something, the number of times is the service or the process request method is invoked. Okay. Then we have one more thing, that is do get and do post methods. So what does this do get and do post method do? They handle HTTP get and post methods. Sorry, request. Okay. Whenever a browser sends the HTTP GET request and POST request, the doGET method and doPost method of the servlet handles the request. Okay. Then what comes? Then comes the destroy method. Now, what does the destroy method do? The destroy method is called before the servlet is unloaded. It is called before the servlet is unloaded. Whenever the servlet's work is finished and it is getting unloaded, then before that the destroy method is invoked. Okay. So we have another optional method, that is get servlet info. Now what is this used for? It is used for returning information about the servlet. It is used to return information about the servlet. Okay. So this is the servlet life cycle. We have mainly 4 stages, or the fifth one is optional. Let me write it. The fifth one is optional, and it mainly has the 4 life cycles method, that is init, which is called once when the servlet is first loaded, and the second is service, or the new method is process request, which is called for every client request. Then we have specific do get and do post methods to handle HTTP GET request and post request separately. Then we have destroy method. It is called before the servlet is unloaded. Then we have another method, that is get servlet information, which is optional and it is used to return information about the servlet. Okay, am I clear, guys? Okay, no one has any doubt. So let's move to the practical session and let's create a servlet. Okay, so let's create a servlet. Click on the day6 package and click on new. So here we can see the servlet option. Click on servlet and we have a name. So we can name it as hello servlet or anything you like. Hello servlet. Then click on next. Here we can see that add information to deployment descriptor, that is web.xml. Now what is web.xml? We'll come to this after we create the servlet. Okay. So here it says that the servlet name is hello servlet and the URL pattern is there is a slash then hello servlet. So what does it mean? Whenever we hit the hello servlet URL inside the browser, the servlet named hello servlet will be invoked. Okay, that is either the process request will be called or the get or post method will be called according to the request. Okay, so let's create the method and let's name it the URL. Let's change the URL to so. Okay, we have changed the URL to so, and let's add the information to deployment descriptor. We will see later. Let's click on finish. Now here we can write, see, we can see here there is a lot of things. There is a lot of imports, that is for the exception, IO exception. Here is the print writer. Here is servlet exception to handle the servlet exception. Here is the HTTP servlet class. It is the HTTP servlet request class and as well as a response class. Okay. So here inside we have got a class hello servlet that extends the HTTP servlets. So what we have learned earlier, that servlet is a Java class that handles the HTTP request and response. So it is a Java class. So what does we do? So what do? We just extend the HTTP servlet class with another class called hello servlet or anything you like. Okay. So now you can ignore this comment out parts. So now we get the protected void process request. This is the method where I was talking about. So recently the service method has been changed to process request method and it is used for both get and post requests. Okay. So if we have not specified any specific get request and post request, the process request method will be invoked. Okay. So we have the parameter as HTTP sublet request reference and the name is request, and another type is HTTP sublet response and the name is response. Okay, and this method process request method throws the sublet exception and the IO exception. Okay, now what is in the body we don't have to bother, and here if you scroll down we can click the expand button here, and here we get the protected void do get, and here the protected void do post. Okay, so you can see that this has the annotation of override, that is this method is being overridden by the class. So this method is a part of the HTTP sublet class, but it is being overridden by the hello sublet class that we have created. Okay, so how can we change this? If we want to handle the HTTP GET request, then we can write it inside the do GET method. Okay, if we want the only post, we can write it inside the do post method. But if we are regardless of GET and post, then we can write it inside the process request method that will be invoked regardless of whether it is GET method or it is post method. Am I clear, guys? Everyone, am I clear? So let's come to the practical session. Let's run it again. Okay, let's run it again. Click on run file. Here we can see the to do write content, that is the HTML page. So what do we have in the deployment descriptor? Let's click on here web-inf, expand this, and here we get a web.xml file that is called a deployment descriptor. Let's open this. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, let's open this. So you can see here, this is a XML code. So what is the XML code is used for? It is used for mapping the Java servlets with the URL of the web page. Okay, what is it used for? It is used to map the the Java servlets with the web page URL. Okay, so just now we created the hello servlet, and now while creating we mapped it with the name source. So this is how it looks like in the HTML, sorry, in the XML. So we can write like this. Let me comment it out and write again for you. So we have a servlet tag and we have a servlet mapping tag. Okay. Let the autocorrect gone. Okay, we have a servlet mapping tag. ACRVLET servlet mapping tag. Then let's close this. Okay, so in the servlet tag, again we have two things. Okay, that is the servlet name and the servlet class. Here is the servlet name, then we have the servlet class. Let me write again, servlet servlet hyphen class. Okay, let's end this also. Okay, so now what is the servlet name? This servlet name can be anything according to you. Okay, let me take as ABC. Okay, I have given the servlet a name as ABC. Then what is the servlet class? The servlet class is the name of the servlet you have created here, that is hello servlet.java in our case. Okay, we have created a servlet named hello servlet.java, but it is not the name, it is the servlet class. So we have to write inside the name as servlet.class, but not like this. So if you think, we can write like hello servlet.java. This will not work because we have in source packages, we may have many packages. So we have to write the full path, that is inside the day6 package. We have the hello servlet.java. Am I clear, guys? Okay, if this is clear, then let's map this servlet with the URL. So how is this map? Inside the servlet mapping. So we have to map the servlet with the servlet names. Okay, so like this, we also have a servlet name tag inside the servlet mapping. Now we have the another tag, that is URL pattern. So let's create the URL pattern. Okay, now the URL pattern is, let me take as so, the same name, this so. So this means whenever I will hit, okay, let me open here, whenever I will hit here, let me remove the index.html and I am going to show. See, you can see here servlet, hello servlet /Octanet Advanced Java. Okay, so what does it happen? Why does it happen? Whenever I am hitting the show in the URL, the deployment description checks that in the servlet mapping tag, where is the URL pattern show? Okay, where is the URL pattern show? And when it finds the URL pattern show, it will search for the servlet name, that is ABC in our case. Then it finds the name ABC. Then it will check inside the servlet tag in which servlet name the name is ABC. Okay, in which servlet the servlet name is ABC. Then it will call the particular servlet class, that is hello servlet.java. Am I clear, guys? Whenever we hit the URL inside the browser, then the deployment descriptor will search for the URL pattern. Then from the URL pattern, it will retrieve the servlet name from the servlet mapping, and from the name, it will retrieve the servlet and the servlet class. Then the servlet class will be invoked. So this is the work of deployment descriptor. Am I clear, guys? This is how this is being called. Okay, so why is this printing servlet hello servlet at this path? Why is this printing? Let me tell you. So we have not specified any method. So by default, whenever we click on any URL, the HTTP method is a GET request. Okay, by default, it is a GET request when we have not externally provided any method. So this show method is invoking the GET request, and just because we have not anything written anything in the GET request, it will invoke the process request. Okay, so inside the process request, we have HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response as two parameters. Okay, so this is a response dot set request set content type. This is the content type of the web page, that is text slash HTML, and this is the character set, that is UTF-8, the default character set. Okay, so what is print writer and what is response? Okay, response is the HTTP servlet response object that will handle all the things that are required in response. Okay, in the HTTP request class, HTTP servlet request class, we will get everything that the client will send from the browser, and using the response method or the response object, we will we will send the result to the client to the browser. Okay, am I clear? So here, the response object has a method that is called getWriter. You can refer it to as a system.out.println. We use system.out.println to print on the console, but here we use response.getWriter to print on the web page. Okay. So what will it give the return type? The reference type is a print writer class, and it is named as out. Okay. So here we have written out.println, and inside the HTML code, so it is doc type HTML. Then we have again written that HTML here. Then here the title is servlet hello servlet. That is, we can see here it is written that servlet hello servlet here. Okay. So then we have the head tag closing. We have the body tag, and in the body tag we have servlet hello servlet at, here is the concatenation operator, and then we have request dot get context path. So what is the context path? We can see here, not here, I think. Okay, we can see the context path when we created this project. Remember, guys, when we created the Octanet Advanced Java project, it asked for a context path. So there in the context path, we give it the same name as the project name, Octanet Advanced Java. That is why when the get context path method is being invoked, it shows us slash Octanet Advanced Java. Okay, that is, this is the context path. Okay, after port, this is the context path. Then after everything, we will call the deployment descriptor. Okay, am I clear, guys? So this is the basic structure about servlet. So if anyone have any doubts till now, you can ask me. Else we will move further. Okay. Up to now, we have completed the basics of servlets and the deployment description configuration file, that is web.xml. Then we can proceed further to handle the form data. Okay, how to handle the form data, we can proceed further. Okay, so everyone understand? No doubt, sir. Very good, Neeraj Sharma. So okay, let's move further. Okay, in the index.html, let's create a form instead of this div. Let's create a form ourselves. Let's create a form. Then inside the form, let's write username. This is an input. of type, uh, it should be equal to, I think, type text, then the name. This is the name for the controller that will be used in the background or our sublet. So students, don't forget this name whenever using a form control. In every form control, we will need a name parameter to use the value in the background. Okay. So this is it. Let's tag a BR tag. Then it is the self-closing tag. Then another is password. We will have another input, not in, but input. Then type is equals to password. Then name is equal to pass. Okay. So this will be all right. Then we will have a submit button. That is input. Okay. Input. Then type is equals to submit. And value is equals to submit, or let's say login. Okay. Okay. So this is it. We have created a form. Now let's try running it. We can just refresh here. Okay, I don't know. I think we have to, no, we are in the surface. So we have to go back to index.html, index.html. So now we can see a form tag. So I'm not using any CSS as we are only running the backend now. So you can see the form here and you can see the login. And by clicking login, you can see the URL as user is equals to and pass is equals to. So in using the get method, whenever the data is sent to the browser or from browser to the server, the data is set inside the URL. So anyone can see the data. Okay. So it is always recommended while sending your data from browser to server, always use the post method, not get, because post method will not show the data. So how can I do that? We just have to write here in the method tag, we can write method is equals to post. Okay. So now let us refresh this. Let's refresh it. And now we can remove the URL here up to HTML. And now if I click the login, see, you cannot see the user and password symbol or the query string here. Okay, this is not visible anymore. So let's try using the get method only. Remove the method and let's try sending. Okay, so in the Brave, let's type the username as hi and let's type the password as hello. Okay, now let's click on login. See, here nothing happens. So how can we send the data from front end to back end? Okay, how can we send it? We can send it like in the form tag, we can write action is equals to, so, or let's say login. Action is equals to login. Okay, so now let's see, whenever someone inputs it, let's input hi and the password is hello. Now if we log in, you can see that it is sending to slash login. The HTML page is changed to slash login, and in the query parameter you can see that the user is equals to hi and pass is equals to hello. Okay, so what is user and what is pass? They are the control names we have written inside the input tags. Okay, so for username, we have declared the name is equals to user, and for password, we have declared the name is equals to pass. That is why after submitting, we are getting the query string as login slash login. It is our action URL. Then in the query parameter, we can see user is equals to hi and pass is equals to hello. Okay. So it is showing that HTTP status 404 slash login. Why? Because we have not created a sublet use named login. So now let's create the sublet named login and let's see what happens. So click on day6 package and new, and let's click on a servlet. So it's a servlet, here is a servlet, click on it and name it as login servlet. Okay, so click on next. Here you can directly click to add information to deployment descriptor. If you click here, then we don't have to write in web.xml externally. If we click here, it will be automatically written there. Okay, so now the servlet name is login servlet, but our URL pattern is only login. Why? Because in the action tag, we have written only login, not login servlet. So we have to change here from login servlet to login. So let's not remove the slash. then we can write slash login. So excuse me. So whenever the browser hits the URL slash login, the servlet that is named login servlet will be called. So let's make the finish and create the servlet. So here's the servlet. Now we can remove anything and everything. So let's remove this. Okay. So the content type is set to text slash HTML, that is no error. So we can directly write response object dot get writer dot println, and inside this we can write login servlet invoked. Okay, so now let's try running it. Open the browser, click on refresh, then continue. Then okay, we have hi here, hi. Then we will write hello. Then let's click on login. So you can see that 404 slash login user and pass. So why does this happen? The resource is not available, it is saying. Why does it say that? So let's check the web.xml. And in the web.xml, you can see that this is the servlet mapping login servlet. The name is slash login URL pattern. And in the login servlet, the servlet name is login servlet. Okay, so what is the error? Why is it showing that? HTTP status 4, let's refresh it. Okay, something is not good here. Okay, let's try rerunning this. Open the index file, click on run file again. Okay, now let's try running this. Hi, the password, let's AST, click on login. So you can see here, now we hit the login and the query parameter is user is equal to hi and password is equal to AST. And we have successfully created an servlet that shows us login servlet invoked. Okay, so why this servlet invoked? Because we have written here in the login servlet, we have written inside the process request, that is regardless of the request, that the get request or post request, it will be called. And this shows the response object with the get writer method. In the println, we have written that login servlet invoked. Okay, so we don't want the data to be shown in the URL, because the password should not ever be shown in the URL, otherwise it can be hacked or stealed. Okay, so let's put the post method. Okay, so let's check in the HTML, we can write action is not accept request, this is action. Action is equals to, sorry, not action but method. Method is equals to, this is post. Okay, so now we can only do this for post method. So what is the error? Okay, we have forgotten the quotation mark here. Okay, now no error. So let's run it again. Run file. We can close the previous one. Now we can say hi, then ASDF, then click on login. Okay, so now we get the servlet using the post method, but there is a twist. But if we click on inspect and okay, let's close this one. We don't need this. And we can, from here post method, we can change this to get. Click on enter. And now if we click on login, see here we again invoke the servlet using the get parameter. Okay. When we change the method from the inspect body, so this servlet is invoked, but we don't want that. Okay. As I told you, the process request method is used to invoke for both get and post request, but we don't want that. So we can do what? So we can remove this line. We can remove this. Then in the process request, that thing will happen. Okay. So we can expand this, and inside the get method, we can comment this out. So you can see that why the process request is being called, because inside the do get and do post method, both the methods are calling the process request method inside their body. So that is why regardless of the method, the process request method is being called. Okay. So what can we do? We can just comment out calling the process request method and send a what can we send? We can send a message that is response dot get writer dot println, and within this we can write get method denied. Okay, we can write like this. Now we have to comment for this also. Now here we can write response dot get writer dot println servlet invoked. Okay, so now let's try running it. What is the error? This should be a get writer method. So I think now the error is gone. Yes. Let's now run the file again. We right click here and run the file. Now, if we try to change the method from here, from post to get, let me change it. From post to get, we have successfully changed it. Now, if I try hello and any random password, click on login. So you can see that it is showing me get method denied. And the actual thing that should be done, it is not doing that. Okay. So now if I refresh this is a post method again. Now if I send hi and any random password and login, then we can see that servlet invoked. Okay. Jit Chantra, what is the main work of getWriter? Okay, so Jit getWriter is a method that is the static method. No, that is the non-static method of the response object that is from the class HTTP servlet response. Okay, okay. Let me see if we can see here inside the. Okay, let me control click it. You can see that HTTP servlet response is an interface, not a class. Okay, it is an interface. Okay, it will have a print writer also, get header, get headers. So here is it. Okay, let me check it. HTTP servlet response. So we have to find response dot set header, set status, get header, get header, get header name. Okay, we can find the get writer here. Okay, let it be. So get writer is a method that is used to write something on the web page. Okay, if you have learned JavaScript, then we have something like document.write that writes on the web page regardless of any CSS format. Okay, so getWriter is a kind of same thing that writes on the web page, and we can write HTML codes inside the getWriter. Okay, so it returns a print writer object that is being written by the println function, or we can use any other function that we could use in Java. Okay, am I clear? Jit Chantra. So let's try this. So we can see that public print writer, the reference type is print writer, and this method is get writer. It will throw a IO exception. Okay. So it is a interface. So we cannot see the implementation here, and it is hidden. So now you understand, Jit Chantra. Very good. So this was the work of get writer. Okay. So now how to get the user input from the web? Okay, we have successfully denied the get request from the user, and now we can only take the post request. Now the thing comes, how can we get the input? Okay, so to take the input, we can do a simple thing, that is instead of printing, we can collect the input like, okay, both are string. We can write the Java code as string username is equals to this, and string password is equals to this. Okay, so now we want to fill the username and password with the user input. Okay, so you can, as you can see here while declaring the form input fields, we have write the control name as user, and here is the name is password. So we can access it with the names. So how can we access it? We can simply write, instead of null, we can write request, as each request or each body from the client will be stored inside the request object. So we can write request dot, we have a method that is get parameter, and here is the name, and the name is user in our case. Okay, whenever we are using the name user, so we are referring to this control. Okay, the name is user, so we are referring to this input control. Okay, so likewise we can do this for password. This is for request, UUEST request dot get parameter, then we have the name as pass. Now we can print it, system dot out dot println username then some space, then password. Okay, so now let's check it. Not this, but this. Okay, so let's move back and click on refresh. Let's close the inspect tab and username. This is suppose user one and the password is pass1. Okay, so let's click on login. Now here we can see the login sublet is called, but we have stored nothing, so it displays nothing. We can minimize and you can see here the output tab. We can open this and inside this we can see the output that is here or here. I think it should be here. Let me, yes, you can see here user one and pass one. It is printed in the console because we have used system.out.println, not getWriter.println. If we have used getWriter, then we could see it in the web page. Okay. So how can we do this? Let's create another web page here to redirect our user. So this is another web page. It is HTML. So let it be a dashboard dot HTML. Okay, and okay, so this is a dashboard.html, and here we can have a button logout. So let's have a button logout, or let's have a link that is a href is equals to index.html, and the text will be logout. Okay, so this is for the dashboard, and we can name it the title as user dashboard. So this is the dashboard page, and in the login sublet we can check hardcode by hardcode value. If username is equals to user and password equals to pass, then we can redirect. So how can we redirect? We can redirect using the response object, response dot send redirect. We have a method called send redirect, and here we can name the file that is dashboard.html. Else we can redirect response dot send redirect to index.html. So it will redirect to the index page again. So let us save it, and so let's check the error. What does it say? So it is saying that comparing string using double is equals to or not is equals to. Okay, I will tell you what's the error. Okay, let's run it and check it if it is working or not. The Brave. So let's move backward, and first let's input the bad things, that is hi random password. Click on login. So you can see that we are being redirected to the index.html, but let's try user and pass. Okay, let's click on login. So you can see that we are again being redirected even if the strings are equal. So that is why, because we don't compare the strings using the double is equals to operator. Okay, we don't compare the strings using the double is equals to operator. We have to compare it using the equals method. Okay, so we can write like this: if username dot equals. Okay, so in the equals we can write like this: username dot equals this, and password dot equals pass. Then only it will return true. See, now the error is gone here. Now we can check again. Username is user. Let's refresh this again. The username is user and password is pass. So now if we log in, see, we can see the dashboard page. And if you click the logout button, we will again go to index page. Okay. So am I clear, guys? So did you understand how we take input from the user, everyone? And reply me in the comment section. Okay. So this is how we take user input using the form controls. Sir, can you add message in else part if not login? Okay, you can add message. Let's check how can we add message. Okay. So in the else part, we can say that is, let's create a HTTP session. Okay, HTTP session, and it is a session, so we have to import it. Let's type Control Shift O, or not Control Shift O. Okay, We can import it by clicking here, add import for HTML HTTP session. Then HTTP session is equals to request dot get session. Okay. So we have got created a session object here. And what is session object? I will tell you. Okay. So inside this session object, we can put a attribute session dot add attribute. Then the first is the attribute name, that is error. The second is the value. And what is the value? The value is user invalid. Okay. Now we have successfully created this. And what is the error? This is showing that method add attribute. Add attribute session type string location session type HTTP session cannot find symbol add attribute. Okay, let's check what is the. Okay, it is set attribute, I think. Yes, it is set attribute. Then we have successfully set the attribute. Now in the login page, okay, we cannot use file we are using HTML because HTML is using for the static content. Okay, but if we want the user to get the dynamic content, that is you are asking for Neeraj, when the user login is invalid, then the pop-up will show it is a dynamic content. So for dynamic content, we will need the JSP page. Okay, so let me show you how it is done, but we are going to learn JSP in more details. Let me just show you. I am just refactoring this and renaming the file refactor, then rename index. Okay, we cannot rename the extension. So, okay, Neeraj, if you can wait a few more time, I will tell you when we will go towards JSP, that is Java server pages. Okay, from there, I will show you how to see the response dynamically from the servlet. Okay, so I expect you to wait till that time. So now, for now, we have successfully checked how to get the inputs from the servlets and how to use it. Okay. Okay, Neeraj. So very good. So this is the login servlet. And now we can see that the response object has a method that is send redirect that is used to redirect the web page. This is index.html. Okay. But we have another thing that is called request dispatcher. So what is request dispatcher? Let's see that. Okay, instead of else, let's see that instead of redirecting, I am creating an object of request dispatcher, request request dispatcher, rd is equals to uh, if it is request dot get. Do we have this in the request dot get? Yes, we have get request dispatcher, and here we have to enter the path. This is index.html. So you can see the difference here, guys. While using response.sendRedirect, we can have the file name here. But when creating the request dispatcher, we have to create the object of request dispatcher from the request object. And here we have a method called get request dispatcher. And here we have to put the file name of the page where we want to go. So here, let's import it. Click on here. Click on add import. So we have successfully imported. Now we have to forward. So how can we forward? We have a method rd.forward, and here you have the request and response. Okay. So now let's check it. What is the difference? Let's see. Now if I click on refresh, I can input a wrong value and random password. So if I now click on login, you can see this is the index.html page. But see here, the URL is login. The URL is not index.html. Okay. The only thing difference is the URL is still login, but the page is index.html. You can see that when we use response.sendRedirect, let me show you again. When you use response.sendRedirect, whenever we input a wrong value, let me refresh this. Whenever we input a wrong value and click login, see the URL is index.html. The URL is changed. But whenever we use request dispatcher, let me comment out this and uncomment this. Whenever we use request dispatcher, then the URL is not changed, but the page is changed. See, we have getting the index page, but we have getting the same URL, that is slash login page. Okay, am I clear, guys? Am I clear about the difference between send redirect and request dispatcher? Am I clear, everyone? Am I clear? Mansi Rawal, very good. Okay, now let's move towards servlet config and servlet context. Okay, so what is servlet config and servlet context? So servlet config. So what is this? It is used to pass initialization parameters to a single servlet. Okay, it is used to pass initialization parameters to a single servlet. So what is servlet context then? Servlet context. So it will be servlet config like this, servlet config and servlet context. So it is used to share data. So the servlet config is to use to initialize the parameter into a single servlet. But using the servlet context, we can share the data among multiple servlets in an application. Am I clear, guys? The servlet config is for a single servlet and the servlet context is for multiple servlets among a single application. So how can we use it? So we can use it inside the deployment descriptor, that is web.xml. Okay. So how to use the servlet config? Because servlet config is used inside a single servlet. So how can we use it? We can use it inside the servlet tag. Okay. So inside the login servlet, we can use another parameter, that is init param. Then we can close it. Inside the init param, we have two more parameters, that is param name and param value. So you can see like this, param value. Okay. So let me take a parameter as trainer. Okay, let me take a parameter trainer and the value for the parameter is, that will be my name, that is Lucky. Okay, so we have initialized a init param tag and give a param name as trainer and param value as Lucky. So how can we use it? Okay, so to use it, we have a servlet config class in our servlet. So let's write it here. We can print it just here as, let me write it here. So we have a servlet config class, servlet config, let us name as is equals to, how to get it? We can get it as direct get servlet config. Okay, so let's import it, add import for servlet config. So see, we can get we are getting no error. So how to write it now? We can write as response dot get writer dot println to print directly, and we can write config dot get init parameter and the param name is trainer. Okay, do you guys understand what did I do? So using the config object of the servlet config, I have a method that is get init parameter, and the parameter name is the name which I have given inside the param name inside the init param in the deployment descriptor. Okay, so if I write trainer here, then in the output the name should be my name, that is Lucky. So let's run this and let's run this. Okay, this is the error. Let's go back and remove this. Let's refresh this. Let's use the correct ID and password. PASS pass. Let's log in. So we are getting log out. Why? Because in do post we are getting printing it. Okay, let's just print in the console. Then we will check it there. Okay. So let's print in the console system.out.println. Now let's run it using the post method. Let's run it. Go back to logout, then refresh using the user, then pass, hit login. So now check our console, click on output. Inside the console, we are getting null. So why are we getting null? We should get the value Okay, am I lifting something? We are getting null, but we should not get null here. Okay, this is lucky. This is good. There is no error here. It should be config.getInit parameter. Yes. So where did it go? It should be get init parameter. Yes, it is right. The trainer name is right. Why am I getting the error? Get servlet config. We have the get servlet config here. We are using the servlet config here. Okay, so okay, there is some error, but this should work. Okay, let's check for the servlet context. Okay, so for servlet context, we have a tag that is servlet or context param. Here we can write this outside the servlet tag. We have context param, and inside the context param, we have the same things, that is param name and param value. Let's write it param value. Okay, so if I give here the name, and the name is Octanet. Okay, so let's try using it inside the servlet. Okay, let's use hello servlet. Let's use it here, and let's print here in the print out. Okay, let me create servlet context is equal to get servlet context. This should work. Let's import this. Okay, so what is the error? It is showing some error for get servlet context. Is it request dot get? I don't think this is the get servlet context. Okay, it is here. Request dot get servlet context. It is here. While using the, okay, do we need to use request here? Request dot get servlet config. I don't think so, because it is showing us the error. Request dot get servlet. No, we don't have a request dot, so it was fine. It was the correct method, get servlet config. But for servlet context, I think we have to write get request. Then we can write out dot println context dot. Here we can have the get param value or get init value or get context value. What is it? Dot get. Let's search for it. Get init parameter, I think this is. Get servlet, no, get init parameter. Where is it? Get init parameter. I think this is it. Get init parameter, and the name is name. So let's try running this. Okay, so let's try running this. Okay, we are going to show the URL is show this error. Initializing servlet class day 6 that hello.java. Error instantiating the class not found exception that hello servlet.java. So this is showing us class not found exception. Okay, so this is showing class not found exception. Why did we remove this? Web.xml abc URL pattern is /show abc is hello servlet.java. Is there some spelling mistake? HELLO ACRPLET hello servlet.java. Okay, I think we don't have to write .java here. That's the mistake. We don't have to write .java. Let's run it again. Okay, let's refresh again. See, here we get the output as Octanet. Okay, so this was the use of servlet context. Okay, let me show you once more. Inside the deployment descriptor, that is web.xml, we have created a context param. That is inside it, we have created param name and we have created a param value. And the purpose of the context param is to share the initialized values between multiple servlets. Okay, so just now we have used it inside the hello servlet, and now we can also reuse this inside the login servlet. So likewise, this we can use it inside the login servlet. Let's import it. and now not out but response dot get writer dot println. Okay, let's try running this. Let's save it and now run this. Now if we go to slash index, then put the user and password, then click on login. We are on, oh, we are getting log out because we are getting redirect to dashboard.html. We are not seeing the login sublet. So that was, there was no error actually. So let's not redirect this. So let's just comment out these parts. Okay, now we can see the login sublet. Okay, we were getting redirected. That's why we are seeing the logout. Okay, now we can directly go to login, and this get method is denied. So let's go to the post method and click login. See here we can see the Octanet. Okay. Okay, let me just copy it and use it in the second tab. We can see that login and this is so. So you can see that we have declared one single sublet context and we can use the value in the multiple sublets, that is inside the show sublet and inside the login sublet. We can use the value for both the sublets. Okay. So I don't think what is the error. I cannot think. So let me try again. Out dot println config dot get init parameter sublet context no get init parameter, and the name is, let me double check the name. The name is trainer. Okay, let me rewrite the name as name again. The name is name, and let's try the name as name. Then save it. Now this is not out again. Response dot get writer dot println. Save it, and there is some error. Where is the error? Okay, here is the error. So what does it say? Enum expected class interfacer enum expected. Did we forget to close the bracket? Okay, here we forgot to close the bracket. So now the error is gone. And now if we refresh it, see, we are getting the output as Lucky and Octanet. Okay, are you guys clear now? But if you use this, let me write this inside the hello servlet. You can see that we are writing the same thing inside both the things. Now if you run it, see, I am refreshing both of them, and now you can see that we are getting servlet context in both the servlets, that is Octanet, but the servlet config, we are getting only a single servlet, and in other servlet, that is the value null. Okay, are you guys clear now? Everyone clear now about servlet config and servlet context? You are clear now? Okay, so everyone is clear now. So let's move towards session management. So what is session management? Session management is used to maintain user data across multiple requests. Okay, so you can tell it like this is a login session, and the session continues when the user logins and it lasts up to the user logouts. So this is called a session. Okay, so how to manage this? This is managed using the HTTP session class. Okay, so how to do it? Let me tell you. So this is the user. Okay. So how can we perform a session management? Let's create another servlet. Okay. So let's create another servlet. And where is the servlet? Here is the servlet. Session management. So let's add it to deployment descriptor. Click on finish. So here we got the session management servlet. And now let's comment out the process requests for both. And this time let's work in get request. Okay, so we have seen the user post method, and let's work in the get method, not to be complicated. Okay, so what is session management? Let me write it here. This class will be a long class, students, so we have to complete the servlets and JSP in today's class. So bear with me and study hard. So what is session management? session management. So session management is used to maintain user data across multiple requests. Okay, am I clear? Used to maintain user data across multiple requests. So you can use the session to forward a request from one servlet to another servlet. Okay, so just like I have written here, instead when Neeraj asked me to send the error message, so instead of sending the error message, I have written hello students, am I audible now? The internet was disconnected. Am I audible? Jeet, Neeraj, Mansi, am I audible? Okay, so I think am I audible now? Yes, very good. That's good. So as I have already showed you here, here we have created an object of HTTP session with request.getSession method. Okay. So here we can set the attribute using the set attribute method, and this is the attribute name. This is the attribute value. Okay. So now how can we use it? So let's create, we have already created the another servlet, that is session management.java, and the URL is I think session management also. Let's check it twice. Okay, the URL is session management. So let's hit that URL. Okay, in the request dispatcher, we can write index.html, we can write session uh, management. Okay, this is just a name, the URL name, so that we can hit this URL. Okay, now we can use this value. Okay, okay. Or let's just take a simple example, the index.html. Let's create another form. Okay, here is the another form, and the action is add. So we have created for the addition of two numbers. This is num1, this is num2, and for both the input type is text. Then this is n1, this is n2, and the value is art. Okay, the value is art. We have, sorry, this is should be n1 and this should be n2. Okay, so now remove the session management and uh, create another servlet named add. Okay, so we have created named add. Then click on finish. Okay, so inside add, in the let's clear all the process request. Remove everything. Here we have. So how can we get the input? We can get integer num1 is equals to request dot get parameter, and it is n1. Then we can double this, and n2, the name is num2. And now what to do with this? Okay, so why is it showing us some error? So it is showing the error that incompatible types string cannot be converted into int. So remember guys, whenever you are using the request.get parameter method, it is returning us a string. So to store it in the integer, we have to convert it explicitly. So how can we convert it? We can write integer dot parseInt, then inside that request dot get parameter. Okay, like this, integer dot parseInt request dot get parameter. So there was a typing mistake. Okay, now the error is gone. So now what can we do? We can add this. So int num3 is equals to num1 plus num2. Now what can we do? We can show the output here in the servlet, or we can do one more thing. We can create another servlet to show the output. So let's create the servlet to show the output here. This is the servlet output. Then click on next. The URL pattern should be slash output. Then let's add it web.xml. Click on finish. Okay. Now we want what? Let's remove this. We just want to show the output, that is response dot get writer dot println, that is the output num3. Okay. So now the error is we are using the num3 here in the add.java servlet. Okay, Neeraj Sharma. Sir, can you add request dispatcher method name include to add error message instead of forward method? Let me read it once again. You can add request dispatcher method name include to add error message instead of forward method. Yes, Neeraj Sharma, you are telling to add request dispatcher method instead of send redirect method to use the error. Okay, I think you are saying this. Where is the login servlet? I think you are saying this uh, in the request dot set attribute. This is error and invalid user. Are you saying about this? Neeraj Sharma, are you telling me to put the attribute inside the request and send it to another servlet? I could not understand what you just said. Okay, by doing this, we have a request and we have session management, we have request management. We can do both of this to send data from one servlet to another servlet or from one page to another page. But the thing I said to you was RD that include. Okay, what is RD dot? Let me try RD dot include. So this is a servlet request and servlet response. So this is the same as RD.forward. So we don't have to send the request and response, but we have to send the data. Okay. So how can we send the data? Then pass print writer println. Okay, Neeraj Sharma, we can do that, but it will show in the servlet, not in the HTML page. I told you that the HTML page is for the static content only. If we want the dynamic content on the HTML page, then we have to use some server-side rendering like JSP or a front-end framework like React. Okay, using the HTML only, we cannot create a static dynamic web page. Okay, so let me show you first the use of session, then I will show you how using the request object we can forward the data. Okay. So where was we? So here we were in the art.java. Then I want this num3 to be used by output.java here. Okay. So how can we do that? We can create a HTTP session, and name it as session is equals to request dot get session. Then we can add session dot set attribute. Then this is the name is result and the value is num3. Okay, so let's import the session. Okay, so we have successfully set the attribute inside the session. Let's save it. Now we can use it inside the output.java. Okay, so to use it, let's create the session object here also. HTTP session is equals to request request dot get session, and now we can do like session dot get attribute and within the name, and here the name was the name set that was result, and we can write here result. Then we have to write dot toString to convert it to string explicitly, because the get attribute will return a object. Okay, it will return an object, not a string, so we have to convert it into string explicitly. Okay, so now we can save this. So what is the error it is showing? Where is the error? Okay, here is the error. I think there should be a brackets thing. Where is the error overhead? This is showing that class interface or enum expected. So where is the error? Okay, I think we need to remove this bracket. Okay, now the error is gone, and in the same output.java, I think we need to remove this bracket, not this. Then, okay, the output is ready. Let's try running this. Okay, now we need to go to, no, okay, let's refresh this. So here we get another form. Let's add two numbers, that is 2 and 5. Let's click on add. Okay, so we did not get any output inside add. Let's check why. Why we did not get any output? Okay, inside the add. Okay, we have not redirected from add to output. Okay, we have already put it inside the session, but we have not redirected from add to output. That is why we get nothing. So let's redirect it using the response object, response dot send redirect, and the name is plus output. Okay, so let's save it, and now let's run again. Move back, click on refresh, 2, and this is 5. Let's click on add. So this page cannot be found. Why? Let's check the deployment descriptor. Okay, we have to give the full context flash, that is remove the slash. Okay, we should not write the slash here. Okay, now refresh, 2, 5. Now see, we are getting the output 7 and the URL is output. The servlet we have written in between for the operation, that is add, it is not showing anymore, and we are directly redirecting to output. Okay, so the difference is if we write here slash output, then it will show us the context path, that is it will become like this, and this will show error because we don't have anything URL like this. So that is why we have to remove the slash from here and send redirect to output only. So it will redirect to like this, localhost, our port, and our context path, then output. So we will get 7. So that is how, this is one type of how we can pass data from one servlet to another servlet or from one page to another page. Okay. Then again, we have one more thing, that is cookies. So how can we send data through cookies? The simple cookies, cookie is equals to request dot request request dot get cookie. Just get cookies. Here it is, get cookies. Then let's import this. Click add import, or it is showing create class for cookies. Is it cookie? Okay, it is cookie. Cookie is equal to request dot get cookies. So why is it showing error? Let's see. Okay, so this is a array. So we have to define a cookie array, and this is a type of get cookies is an array type because we have multiple cookies inside a cookie. Okay, so let's try how can we insert our data. Let's see what methods do we have. We have only this kind of methods, cookie.get class. So don't we have any more like append, cookies.append? Do we have this function? I don't think we have this function. Okay, let me check one time. Cookies. Okay, I don't think cookies has this function. Okay, let's keep the cookies part for tomorrow session. I will tell you the request part here. Here we can write as request dot set attribute, and the name is result2, and it is num3. Now instead of redirecting, we can use the request dispatcher, that is request dispatcher rd is equals to request dot get request dispatcher. Okay, so let's import this. Create class. Is there a spelling mistake? That's a spelling mistake. Create is CHER request dispatcher. Okay, so now we can import this. Okay, it is showing error again. Method cannot be applied to given type string. Okay, let us Take the hint request dot get request dispatcher. Okay, we have to give path. So the path is output only. Okay, so now we can forward rd dot forward request and response. Okay, now instead of collecting it from the session object, we can collect it from the request object directly. That is, let me write it again. Let's comment this, and we can write like request dot get attribute, and the name is result 2, and let's write dot toString. Okay, so let's rerun this. Now we can rerun this. It is 2, it is 5, and by clicking add here, we can see the output is 7. But as we are using the request dispatcher, the URL is /add not output. Okay, am I clear up to this, guys? This is how using the request object and using the HTTP session object, we can send data from one page to another page or from one sublet to another sublet. Okay, am I clear, guys, about sublets? Respond me, guys. Am I clear about servlets? Neeraj Sharma, yes, sir. Very good. Okay, so this is the basics about the servlets. Now we can move to JSP. Okay, so let me clear all of this. Okay, there is one more thing. Let me tell you. That is revoking the back button. Okay, it is very important to revoking the back button after logging out of the system. Okay, so how can I do this? We can do this. Okay, we will do this when we will use the what is called uh, database connectivity to authenticate the user instead of hard coding value. Okay, so here we are using the hard coded value, that is user and password. Rather, we will use the database to check the user connectivity. Okay, so you can directly check it here. So let's create a table. Open the command line client, MySQL client. Write your password and write. Okay, what was the database name again? Let me check it. So databases, okay, it was Octanet. So use Octanet. Then let's show the tables. Okay, you have demo. So let's create another table. Create table user. Then we have username. It is of Bharkya of 20. Then password is also a Bharkya of 20. That's it. Okay, now we can insert the values. Insert into user values. User one. Okay, it should be inside double quotes. User one. Then pass one. Then let me insert another data. User two and pass two. Okay, that should be fine. Let's enter and select start from user. So here we got two users, that is user one with password pass one and user two with password pass two. So let's try with database connection how to check the user credentials. Okay. Okay, so let's create another servlet, that is servlet login JDBC. Okay, login JDBC. So the URL will be login JDBC, and let's add it to deployment descriptor. Let's click on finish. Okay, so here we got it, and we will work only with post method. So let's comment out the get method. Then we will use the post method, so we don't need the process request here. And now let's check about string user is equals to request dot get parameter, that is user, and this one is password. For pass, let's write pass. Okay, write the full name, username, and password. Okay. So now, how can we check this? Okay, how can we check this? To check this, first we will need the JDBC connection. So what are the 7 steps for the JDBC connection? That are very easy. The first one is to import the package. So we can import the package here, like import java.sql dot star. For now, let's import star. Then we will import one by one according to our usage. Okay, now let's put it the try and catch blocks for the JDBC exceptions. Catch, we will have 2 exceptions mainly, that is class not found exception, and another is SQL exception. Let's name it as E, and in case of exception, let's set print it system.out.println E, and that's okay. So now let's register the driver, that is class dot for name, and the class name is com dot mysql dot cj dot jdbc dot driver. I think this is it. Then let's create the connection with connection con is equals to driver manager dot get connection. Then it's time for the URL. I think the URL is jdbc colon mysql colon / localhost colon 3306 / our database is Octanet. Okay, so this is I think the URL. Then the username is root and the password is this in my case. So we have successfully created the connection. Now let's prepare the statement. So what is the prepare statement? Prepare statement ps is equals to con dot prepare statement. And what is the statement? We will compare the user values with the database values. So how can we compare it? We can compare like select password from user where username is equals to query. Okay, so now what did we do? We retrieve the password from user table. The table name is user where the username is query. Okay, so we can retrieve both username and password, but since we already have the user, we only need the password. Okay, so let's retrieve the username which have the or the password in which the username is provided. So let's ps dot set string to replace the placeholder set string. Then it is for the first, then the replaced string should be username. Okay, then we were going to execute this. So result set rs is equals to ps dot execute query. Okay, so if the result set will have some data, then we get to know that the user exists. If it does not have any data, then we will be sure that there is no such user entered by the user or any end user. Okay, so how can we do? We can write that if rs.next. In the previous class, I told you what does rs.next do. It will check for the next record. If the record exists, then it will move the cursor towards the record. And if the record does not exist, then it will return null or it will return false. Okay, false such that there is no next record exist. Okay, so if there is a record exists, then rs.next will return true. Then we can check for the database password and the user entered password. So how can we check this? We can check this like if password, that is the password entered by the user, and password dot equals, then this is rs dot get string. We are getting this from database and the column name is password. So what are we doing? We are, this is not semicolon. So what are we doing? First, we are checking if the user exists or not. Then if the user exists, then if the password entered by the user is equals to the password that is stored inside the database, if this is true, then only the user is authenticated, else the password is null. Okay, else the password is incorrect. So how can I do this? We can do like this. If the user, then we can redirect response dot send redirect to dashboard dot html. If it is not the case, then we can show the user response dot get writer dot println invalid password. Okay. But if there is no such user exists, then we can also show the user that response dot get writer dot println invalid username. Okay. So now let's try running this. Let's refresh this, not this, but our index page. Let's refresh this. Oh, we forget one thing. We have to change the action from our HTML tag, that is from login to login JDBC. Otherwise, it will call the previous servlet. Okay. So let's try running this. Okay. So refresh this, refresh, and now click the username as hi, and with a random password, click on login. So it is connecting database, and we get the output as invalid username. Why? Why? Because there is no username named as hi in our database. Okay. So let me change the username to user1, and the password is again arbitrary. So let's see what is the output. So now it says invalid password. That means the user exists in our database, but the password is incorrect. Okay. So that is why we are getting this. Now, if we write the correct password, that is pass1 for user1, then click login. Now we are getting dashboard page, that is dashboard.html, and here we get the logout session. Okay. Okay. Now there is one more thing to remember. Okay. So what is that thing? After clicking logout, if anyone tries to change the URL to dashboard.html, actually go here without logging. But that is not the thing we want, because this is for hackers to securely hack us. Not securely, it will be secure for them to hack us. Okay. So let's try. What can we do? We can do a session verification. Okay. So after in the login servlet, okay, login JDBC here. Here in the login JDBC, if we have the same password and the same username, that is the user is authenticated, then what can we do? We can put it in a session. HTTP session is equals to request dot get session. Now in the session object, we can set the attribute as username, set attribute set attribute as username, and the username is username. Okay, so we have successfully set the output, so set the attribute at username. Let's import this. Okay, we have successfully set the attribute as username. Okay, so now let's go to dashboard.html, and we can use this in a JSP page. Okay, so in a JSP page, we can verify here. There is a tag writing for Java codes. In here, we can verify that if in the session the user exists, then we will allow the URL to show the user, else the URL will not be displayed. Okay. So I think everyone is tired now, as this session is going for more than 1 hour. So I think keeping up to this will be okay for today. And this is all about the servlets and servlet config and servlet context. So let me tell you, what did we learn today? So we learned about advanced Java, that is web application. What is web application? What is client, server, and databases? What are servlets in Java? And how the servlets work, the servlet lifecycle. What is servlet config and what is servlet context? And we saw the deployment descriptor. How does a deployment descriptor work? And how do we map a servlet with the URL? Then we have checked how to validate the user by using the database credentials. And what else did we do? We use the session management. We use the request management by sending data from one servlet to another servlet, or by sending one page to another page. In tomorrow's session, We will learn about what is JSP, that is what is Java Server Pages, and we will learn about server-side rendering, that is dynamic content technology. Okay, so this is it for today's. I hope everyone, each and everyone understood up to today. If you have any doubt, you can ask me for 2 minutes. I will clear the doubt and let's wind up the session after 2 minutes. Okay. Okay. So I think everyone are clear now. So let's wind up for today's session. And in tomorrow's session, we will start from the JSP pages. And after completing JSP, we'll move forward towards the Spring Boot framework. Okay. So that's all for today. Thank you everyone for your patience and have a nice day. So see you tomorrow.